We're here today to talk about intransigent band directors. Band directors who are predators and sex offenders, and what that means for the rest of everybody else trying to do well as teachers and players in most school districts. Just so happens I am in Texas at the moment, and it's a very interesting vibe in Texas where you can't even go in and do a presentation to a class without giving up your firstborn child, your driver's license, your social security, how many hairs you have on your head, and how many on your asshole. It's just fucking ridiculous. Okay? So, I'm really not Navy SEAL. I just happen to play one on TV right now. But I can do most of the crap that they can do, I'll tell you that, except that water shit. Here's how it works in Texas, folks, and it doesn't work that way in other states. Texas, want to get involved with the school district and not become an employee, but you have something to offer the teacher and the kids, and you want to go and do a presentation. Well, bad news for you. They're going to want your DNA. They're going to want your fingerprints. They're going to want everything about you, your whole history, for a half an hour of your time in the schools. Now, I don't know if this is like this in every single school district in Texas. But I know why they're doing it. They have, I guess, a good heart about it. Maybe there is something at the core of it that's meant to be good. And I'll tell you what that core is after doing some research. I guess there are many Texan band directors that like the kids in the illegal way or the immoral way. And so, as a result, the Texas school districts have put a blanket over everybody, that everybody is guilty until proven innocent. And how are they proven innocent? By DNA, fingerprinting, FBI clearances, background checks all the way back to when you were in high school. It's just absolutely ridiculous. So we're going to talk about a couple things. We're going to talk about the ridiculous, and then we're going to talk about the real culprits and why things are how things arrived as they are in current times in Texas, and why they shouldn't be that way. Okay? So, what would you say if you were interested in going to talk to a group of band kids as a freelancer, as a contractor, someone not working for the district because you had something to offer? And in this particular genre, we're talking about music lessons. And what would you say if you went down to Pearland School District and told them that you want to do that, and they said, well, yep, you're going to have to get your fingerprints cleared and your background and your DNA. We're going to have to do a hair sample and blood analysis and a urinalysis, make sure you're not a druggie and all this kind of stuff. All right, well, what if you actually had some of that stuff done when you actually were a hired district teacher from, say, California? And couldn't you just tell the district and refer them to your FBI fingerprints and everything else in that particular state? No, it doesn't work that way. So, of course, I'm talking about myself right here. So, I was just curious to find out if they won't accept FBI fingerprints from California, would they accept them from a different school district? So I made up a white lie and said, well, I used to work in the Plano area, and I had my fingerprints done last year. Could we use my fingerprints there so I don't have to pay the $80 for the fingerprint and FBI clearance? Nope, we can't really do that. Nope, you got to have your fingerprints done right here in our district. So you can't use the FBI background clearance done, 100 miles away. It has to be done in your district. And that was correct. So that made me think of something else. Coercion. So they're trying to make more money for the district, which is off your butt, which is absolutely ridiculous. It just absolutely is ridiculous. So I thought, what the heck? I'm not chomping at the bit to go in and do a clinic at one of the Pearland middle schools, but I thought I had to get started some way. And so I began filling out this 8-page background check listing addresses for the last 20 years. I mean, you had to get a screening for a urinalysis, blood test, fingerprints. It was all going to take about a month and a half. And so I said, well, can I do part of it? I mean, this is a little bit ridiculous, this overkill. And the lady that was the rep for Pearland said, oh, sure, why don't we just start off with a background check? I'm like, okay. She goes, do you have anything to hide? And I said, well, no one's perfect. I said, back when I got out of high school, I did do a little bit of speeding. And actually, it was a lot of speeding. Ended up getting a misdemeanor, slap on the face for that. I said, would that be a problem for me to come in and talk to the kids? She goes, oh, no. Don't even worry about that. That was long ago. And did you say that was a misdemeanor? You were driving too fast? Yeah, I was driving too fast. No, that shouldn't prevent you from coming in and being disqualified. Like, okay, so I'll go ahead and pay the $45, background check, spend 2 hours filling out all the stamp paperwork. And so I did. And I still have the urinalysis to do, the blood test to do, the DNA to do, and I guess they want to look up the names of my firstborn kids and hold them hostage and ransom too for whatever other reason. So I never did make it into this particular Pearland school to do a clinic. We're talking about a clinic where I'm going to be in front of 40, 50 kids talking about how sweet and loving I am and what a great teacher and player, amongst some band directors and maybe even a school administrator. So that's who would be there. I never made it there because I got a call. Actually got an email, then told to call because they can't say anything by email. So I called. Well, Mr. Thompson, we regret to inform you that we did find this misdemeanor back. It looks like you were 18 or 19 years old for speeding. And I said, that's the very one I was telling you about. I mean, that's a long, long time ago, folks. You don't know how old I am, but it's been a minute since I've been 18, 19 years old, okay? And she goes, well, we don't feel comfortable letting somebody come into the school and make a presentation based on what we're finding here. So what else did you find? Well, we found that misdemeanor when you were speeding back when you got out of high school. I'm like, okay. She goes, we just don't feel comfortable having you come in here. We regret to inform you that our policies will not allow someone like that to come in and get in front of the kids. And I'm like, oh, but you told me, well, I may have told you one thing, but I didn't realize that this is a real speeding ticket that you had. And blah, 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 and it got adjudicated and blah, blah, blah. Like, okay. So I walked out of there, mumbling under my breath. I'm glad I didn't spend $77 for a fingerprint by the stupid school district. $40, $50, $60 to go to LabCorp for blood tests, urinalysis. I mean, to get in there and just speak in front of one school and talk about what I do, not on one-on-one, but talking to the whole group, it was going to cost me under $200 and a hell of a lot of my time. Now, most of you haven't studied history like I have, but I found some of the dictators in our past very interesting, including Hitler. And maybe a lot of you have just thought, well, how in the hell could a society let Hitler come into place and do what he did? And the reason that they could do that is because it doesn't happen like that. It happens when the government becomes tyrannical and oppressive and starts criminalizing everything. So you go back and research pre-Nazi Germany, and then research all the way up to when he started getting involved in government, in the military, and politics, and you'll see there is a correlation between a police state forming in Germany and more things becoming criminalized that weren't criminalized before, all the way up to the point where he had the power to start whisking people out of their houses and sending them off to these camps, where the end of the story is not so good. So he didn't just step up to the plate and start doing that. No one would have allowed him to do that. It takes a police state to take all the rights and freedoms away from its citizens and give power to certain individuals for this to be accomplished. And unfortunately, right now, that's what's going on in the United States of America. We are becoming a police state. Actually, many people would argue with me and say we are already a police state. This is a situation when the police are unilaterally killing people, beating people up, not even trying to beat up people like myself. How many cops try to beat up me? There are going to be about 8 of them, I can tell you that. No, you got cops my size beating up old ladies, beating up kids. There's plenty of videos out there showing cops my size on top of old grandmas beating the holy hell out of them. And so when our country will allow a police state to be in vogue like it is right now, that only spells disaster for down the road. Everything is becoming criminalized, including teaching, playing. So when a man or woman can't go into a school as a guest and offer something of value for free to the students and the teachers, we are at a police state. A heavily, heavily armed police state. It's absolutely amazing. When a young mother is nursing her 2-week infant boy and complains that she's feeling some extra special sensory feelings around her nipples when she's nursing, and she gets whisked off to jail and charged with a felony, and her 2-week infant is put in foster care, we are in a police state. That really happened, folks. This country is going to shit. Actually, many people would argue with me and say it already is in the shit. So now let's give Texas a fair shake. To give Texas a fair shake, we'd have to say that every other state in the United States is just as tyrannical and oppressive and Nazi-like as Texas. Is that true? No, it's not true, folks. There are other states that you can go up to any school if you're a teacher and talk to the administration or the particular teacher that works there, and you'll be welcomed in as a guest, whether if you're a scientist and you want to go in and enlighten the science class on some of projects that you're working on, or my situation, music. So for people that, it's kind of funny, people that live in Texas seem to think that that's the only world that really exists. How do I know that? Because when I ask people in Texas, have you gone anywhere lately? Where'd you travel last? Well, we went down to Galveston. We did that last year. Oh, really? Okay, great. Where else did you travel? Well, there's a big water park near San Antonio. We went there. Okay. Yeah, so any other places? Well, we went to a big bike race up in Alamo. Okay, so when you ask Texans if they've traveled, it's in Texas. If you ask Californians if they've traveled, it's to Europe, Japan, Canada, Cabo. So that's one thing about Texas is Texas thinks that Texas is the shit, and it's not. So the reason I know is because I've lived other places, and I've lived around the world, and now I'm stuck in Texas. So Texas is not the shit. They think it is. So when you go outside Texas to do what I try to do, it's amazing how people want someone to come in and be a special guest in their classroom. Not one-on-one, taking the little kiddies in a room, doing one-on-one private lessons. I'm talking about a big master class clinic in front of a band. So, let me give you an example. I'm going to mention real names here. California, rewind a good 5-6 years ago. Brand new to California, wanting to gain some students. I am a master teacher. I've taught over 1,500 students. At that time, I think I taught over 1,100. I've taught band. I've been a public school teacher. I'm a professional musician, known around the world. I played around the world. I've got lots of recordings and videos. Got over 60 references. Many now of those references are on video talking about me. So I go into Lafayette Middle School. Lafayette is in a community called the East Bay of San Francisco. It's a rich suburban bedroom community of Oakland and of San Francisco. And there's a teacher named Bob Athayde. I called him up and told him who I was, gave him some of my references, said I'd like to come in and talk to your entire band about myself, about music lessons, and I'm trying to build a student roster here. I'm brand new. He got back to me the next couple of days and said, sure, Kurt, you can come in this Friday because we're going to be going over blah, 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 blah. And then after that, you can talk to the group. And fine. Guess what? I walked to the office. I signed my name in. A little 8th grader whisked me to the band room because I didn't know where it was. I ended up meeting Bob Athayde there. That was the first of a couple different trips to that school where I ended up getting several students. And on one particular clinic, I remember doing a clinic when I took the brass into a separate room, and I saw one guy who was a lot shorter than me, a little bit pudgy, kind of bald, and had some longish hair in the back, and he looked familiar. And he leaned up on one of the percussion cabinets and put his arms up on the cabinet and kept watching me. I thought, this guy looks familiar. This guy looks familiar. I thought, he looks familiar. Maybe he's a trumpet player. So anyway, that guy ended up leaving. I got done with my clinic, and Bob Athayde came up to me. He goes, oh, did you get a chance to say hi to Mick Gillette? And I said, was that the guy that was over there leaning on the percussion cabinet? He goes, yeah. I said, I recognized him kind of, but not really. I didn't know who he was, but he looked familiar. He goes, yeah, that's Mick Gillette, Tower of Power. I'm like, okay, he comes in here too? He goes, yeah, he's actually played with us. So I'm giving you a real story at a real school, Lafayette Middle School in Lafayette, California. Right off of Highway 24, folks. You go a little bit further down and you're going to either go through the Caldeduck Tunnel, or if you go the other way, you're going to hit 680 and be in Walnut Creek. This is a real place. I really lived there. I really went there. And I did not get asked to donate DNA, urine, blood, fingerprints, hair analysis, or 10-page background reports to simply go up there and talk to the band. I didn't. That's Texas. That's Texas. Not in California. Another school I went to right up 680, right not too far from that particular school, is a school called Sequoia Middle School. Sequoia Middle School, and I forget the first name of the band director, but his last name is Goodlow. And I always called him Mr. Goodlow. I'm trying to remember his first name, I can't, but he was a great band director. Same deal. Said, hey, I'm living in Walnut Creek. I lived in Walnut Creek and Lafayette at the time, but Walnut Creek first. Said, I'm brand new to the area. I'm a master teacher, professional musician, would love to come in. I'm trying to build up my student roster. That's all I'm trying to do. And I teach all the brass. I said, could I come and make a presentation, a clinic to your school? And he goes, yeah. And I said, I'm going to go ahead and email you some references. You can definitely contact them. And you can also go online and check out some of the people who actually were so enthusiastic about working with me as a student and me being the teacher. They made a video review of some of the stuff I've done with them. That worked out good. I went in. I ended up getting a lot of students from Sequoia Middle School. An exit or two past Sequoia Middle School, and this, by the way, is in Pleasant Hill, California. So some of you this might resonate. You know that I'm really telling you the real deal. You go up an exit or two past Pleasant Hill, and you get to a town called Concord. And what's in Concord, folks? Probably the best ever drum and bugle corps on the planet. The Blue Devils, right? It's no coincidence that California has the best drum and bugle corps in the world. Let me just mention two. Blue Devils, boom. Santa Clara Vanguard, boom. Texas? Now, why would that be? Band directors are generalists, are they not? Yes, they are. People like me are precision bullets specialists. We specialize like laser accuracy on what we do best. So is it any coincidence that California has the highest caliber of specialists come in easily and work with their bands? People like Mick Gillette. Mick Gillette. working with some of the school kids in that area. And then myself, I was new at the time. Of course, they know me now. It's no coincidence that California has some of the best musicians, best students in the world, and the best drum and bugle corps because the quality is there. Let's go back to Texas. No, there's no marching band or a drum and bugle corps that can. I don't even think that can compete with the Blue Devils B Corps. And I would say I would go on a limb and say that Blue Devil C Corps could probably trounce almost the best high school bands here in Texas. Is it because the band directors aren't any good? No, the band director is a generalist. He's got to teach 60, 70, 80 kids, right? And they're not all playing trumpet. They're playing different instruments. It's not because of the generalist who's at the helm. It's because of the specialist. So the specialist at most Texas high schools are not professionals like me, not professionals like Mick Gillette. And by the way, rest in peace, Mick. I did read about his passing 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. So I was very sorry to hear a legend like Mick Gillette has passed away. So I'm talking about someone who's passed away, but he was alive, of course, when I was interacting in the California school districts. No, in Texas, I bet we could go around to school after school after school, and you're not going to have a high-powered, heavy-hitting professional musician and master teacher working individually with the kids. You're going to have, a college kid, pimply-faced 19 or 20-year-old from a local community college or even the Ivy League college in that particular area who doesn't know how to teach. So now let's go back to the original premise of this video. So I made several points, but the last point was that no, other states are not like Texas. California is definitely not like Texas. And the level of musicianship among the students are a million times better than Texas. And that's not even up for debate. If it was up for debate, you'd have several drum and bugle corps with the most primo brass players on the planet playing in Texas. They're not. They're not. That's just fact. That's just one example. There's a bunch of other examples. So how did all this come to be? Well, I did even more research, and unfortunately for Texas, Texas has a lot of band directors who are sex offenders, messed around with the kids, did naughty things. Okay? Now every state has that, but I guess Texas had a lot more than their fair share. So in Texas, you have 2 rogue band directors types that made it bad for everybody here, including someone new like myself. You had the criminalist, or the criminal band director who actually diddled and played around with kids under 18. Of course, made the headlines, tarnished the whole city, the town, and school. That person got charged with a crime and probably went off to jail, right? Yeah, or prison. And then they never got to teach again. And then you got the other rogue band director, the one who isn't charged with a crime. Why? Well, because he's a smarter sex offender. He's only going to mess around with students who he's been grooming since 9th grade, and then they turn 18. Okay? So that's the other rogue band director. Sex offender, but not really. Because he's messing around with, typically it's girls. It's a male band director, unfortunately. Sorry, guys. Don't want to be sexist, but that's just the way it works. Male band director messing around with a girl who's 18, just turned 18 or something like that. And he's been befriending her and what they call grooming her since probably she was a freshman or a sophomore. So that particular band director is expelled and suspended or let go, anywhere word that you want to put in there because of his misdeeds with the student. But he's not charged with the crime because the person was age of consent. And actually, I think I may have even misspoke because I think it can be 17 here. Yeah. So for people who don't live in Texas, now this is even more ridiculous. I could go out and mess around with a 17-year-old girl, and that's perfectly legal here in Texas because 17 is the age of consent. So that doesn't even make sense at all compared to other states. In California, I would be charged with a crime. So actually, I forgot about that. So band directors can go all the way down to a girl who's just 17 and became a junior in high school and take her out to Applebee's and take her back to his house. and there'd be no charge against him criminally, but the school district will definitely fire him once they find out about it. So in Texas, and it could be that age of consent, folks, 17, that opens up a lot of girls to a lot of 30-something middle-aged band directors who maybe aren't so good with the ladies, and so they're preying on their kids until they reach 17, which could be a junior in high school. And so there are so many cases like this, I can't even count on my fingers and toes in Texas of all these guys. Now, some of them are criminals and some of them are not. Some of them are the ones that were really smart enough to wait until the kid turned 17. Either way, for us normal folks that are not like that, that actually are normal people when it comes to social interaction, that makes it bad for everybody, because now the way Texas has it, you're presumed guilty instead of innocent, and so they make you go through all this background, and it's just absolute ridiculous. And the ones that are suffering are the kids and the band programs. Sorry, that's the way it is. Now, teachers in Texas might not say their band program is suffering, but they're comparing themselves to other people in Texas. They're not comparing themselves to other schools outside of Texas, especially higher end and higher conscious states, for example, like California and New York, and even some schools in Florida, and maybe even Chicago. So the problem that somebody, especially new to Texas, will face if they've been anywhere else and had success somewhere else is the fact that you're just not going to be able to walk in, offer something of value for free to kids in the school districts and to teachers who would actually want you there. Teachers, other states where I've been, welcome and just relish the fact of having someone come in, someone different than themselves, someone with a different perspective, and give them a 20-minute break, and while they can just relax and watch something instead of having to be the director, they can have someone come up and lead the class. And Texas is not that way. So I think this video and what I'm talking about will resonate with many people. People that are like me, that don't want to be put under the tyrannical leadership of government and the oppression of school districts, the police state that we're involved in, and everything else. And they like being their own person. That's what a freelancer is. That's why people choose to teach private lessons and operate independently rather than to have 8 to 10 people be their bosses in a school district. Okay? Some of us don't like that. Some of us feel independent and entrepreneurial and smart enough to be our own bosses, and we don't need 8 to 10 people in the school district looking after us and telling us what to do. We don't like that. That's why we become our own boss and become our own person and our own entrepreneurial abilities. And that's why we do what we do on our own, because we make a good employee for ourselves and we make a good boss for ourselves. So, but that doesn't work so well in Texas because of the sex offender, the sexual predator band director, and the criminal band director who actually preyed on kids, I guess, in this particular state, under the age of 17. So if you're a band director in a different state who happens to like kids that are 17 and 18, well, you can move to Texas because they'll just give you a little slap on the hand if the kid's 17. If you go somewhere else like California, man, they're going to string you up if the kid's under 18. So there's a lot of things about Texas that doesn't make sense, and this is one of them. So to summarize, so far Texas is an amazingly large state. Most of it doesn't make sense. People here live in their own world, and they think Texas is the center of it all. It ain't, folks. It ain't the center of shit. It really ain't. I don't have a lot of good things to say about Texas, except for the fact I haven't yet been in a tornado, and I haven't got whisked away in a tornado, and I haven't got held up by some meth addict redneck yet at the gas station. So those are two positives right now going for me in Texas. Haven't been held up by a meth addict with a gun. And I haven't been ripped in half by a tornado. So aren't those positives? Those are positives, right? So yeah, that's where I'm at here right now in Texas. So I have another video coming that I gave little hints about when it comes to the school districts and how you can or cannot get in. And this is going to be more about who actually is in the school district as a specialist. Who actually is going in and working with the kids. I'll give you one hint, it's not a master teacher at all.